Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and joining me in the studio right now is Miss Sharon N. Williams of CD Forum. What's up, Sharon?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you
I'm good.
doing?
Nice to see you again.
I know. And we keep bumping into each other in community. That's how you know we're really out here, okay?
Yeah, we out in the streets.
We're
Don't
out
play.
here.
Don't play.
Well, I'm really glad that you're on today because we've been talking about this money, trying to follow this money. You were part of the mayor's task force around this $30 million and how it's going to get wielded into community. And I know we have a slide we're going to show, but I want you to be able to just talk about your experience there in the task force. And now it's coming out, man. You guys are putting it out
man,
there.
it's oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Yo, it was rough from the start. I'm not even gonna lie. Everybody questioned why the mayor wanted to do this task force, who from community was gonna be on it, what was the purpose, where was the money coming from, all of that stuff. And some of my peers on the task force was being attacked, their jobs, things of that nature, and it was just like rough. And we hadn't even started doing anything. It was just that it was an announcement that there was a task force. And then it took a long time for us to like do research and figure out what was needed for the community. And then it started to click. I mean, we've been in this process for 9 months. We met every Friday for 2 hours. I think it's like over 30 hours of meeting and just drilling and learning and hearing from the city and things of that nature. And then we started breaking out into our pillars, our business, our education, our health, our housing, and then we'll come back together. And it was like, yo, we're doing this work. And then now to get the recommendations out, to have the transmittal come out today, it's like we're there. But now we just said it last week in our meeting. We was like, and the work is just beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So much of it is that because I think that it's a multi-pronged effort. I love how you guys use puzzle pieces to talk about kind of those breaking down those 4 pillars into like 9 basic elements of where all of this money can be wielded. So you're really here to talk about this 8.8 million, very specific. Curtis, if you want to put the slide up here, it helped the audience understand this breakdown.
So for housing, we really wanted to focus on getting people ownership and really taking back the rental aspect of things, right? Like my committee with me, Rizwan from Muslim Housing Services and Pastor Carey from First AME and Pastor Willis, who was really like, yo, how do we get people to not even just rent, but how do we get them to lease to own? And we knew that down the line that's like people have tried this before with developments, but the developments were kind of greedy, right? And so it never worked. But what if the city went behind that, right? What if the city took control of that and really worked on developing that process so that we can put the money back in the hands of the people? Because we know that wealth is with ownership, and not with rentals. And then we also noticed that, that we was doing research and it was like housing prices are going up and people aren't making enough money in Seattle, so they would never get to own. So how do we help this process? And so we definitely did the lease to own program, and then it's about retention, right? How do we keep people in their homes? How do we make money available for that? And how do we and that's all linked to generational wealth, right? Yeah. How do we get the conversations within the homes of saying we can use this equity to do this for this house. We don't have to sell it. We can do this with this house and things of that nature. So we can do what our great-grandparents did, right? So my great-grandparents owned their house, and now we still have that house in the family today, and they've been gone for like 30 years. And so how do we get that conversation? So we really challenged the city, and we're challenging the city to start doing generational training programs, and not just in housing, but in every aspect of our pillars, and start to grow and develop. So it's not just a one-time thing, that is something that the city embeds into their current practice of saying, how do you do this? And then it's also about technology, right? When you go to the city for housing, and my friend Donna Moody's who here can talk more about this, but you go to the city for housing, right? Then they don't talk to you about, well, are you a small business owner? Or do you have health care? They just talk to you about housing. Yeah. And so we want them to create a pipeline that actually creates a technology that talks to each other. So if you go to the housing department, things will pop up and say, hey, you have these resources because you're a small business person, and you don't have to just go from one thing to the next, that you know what's available for you.
I think that's really the beauty of technology. You can create the one-stop shop model in terms of treating the whole person. So many in community talk about, how do we treat the whole person?
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about it in various formats, but I think when we utilize that same ideology into all of these things, we really do start to see sustainable change. Well, I think one of the things that I have a question about, because I know you guys did extensive research on this, but the lease to own model, if I go back in time, I think about when my grandmama had, lease to own furniture, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Rent-A-Center would be like, hey, you ain't paid in a couple months. We coming to get that couch, right? We coming to get that fridge. Okay, so how have you guys thought about that? Because a lot of times that therein lies a loophole in terms of whoever the profiteer is, the developer, whoever, that they can be like, wait a minute, y'all ain't doing right. We gonna come and snatch this. How have you guys thought about that in terms of the model?
Education, and as well as making it so that they're in the program, they're in the cohort, and so it's about keeping them there and keeping them in the program, not getting them out the program. And so it's really about community in a different kind of way, right? We want them to not only be invested in having their space, but invested in their neighbors having their spaces. So eventually, the hope down the road is that everybody in the building owns the building. And then you have that invested interest, and somebody can't take it away. And why they can't take it away? Because it's generational wealth, and we're helping to give the training so you know how to do the money. It's that thing of, I run a nonprofit, right? And it's that thing of the first time we got our big cash, right? Like $500,000. I was like, whoa, what do I do with that? But the organization that gave it to me didn't just give it to me. They gave me consultants to go along with that. So how do we keep people in the pipeline to make them know that the education part, like, here's how you stay in it. This is what you need to obtain. This is your budgeting. This is all this information that you need to stay in the program, so they can't snatch it.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing, because I think so much of it is about, okay, well, we've done our part. We're going to go ahead. Y'all got this, and we out.
No.
But really, you guys are saying, nah, this is really like, nah, we're going to come along this process with you. We're going to make sure that there's a lot of things put in place so that you feel supported throughout the entire process, which I really think is key. And I know Donna will probably hit on this a little later, but how did you feel about that final breakdown? I saw it going into all of these different departments. It goes to the RFP. We've talked about the damage of the RFP process. What was that like in terms of getting this money out the door?
It was crazy, because after we came up with our recommendations, then we spent about a month working with the directors from different city departments, right? And trying to break it down, make sure the monies made sense, make sure they had the support they needed in the department to make it run. And then I just want to let y'all know that it's now 18 recommendations that falls into those 4 pillars. And then we saw it and we was like, whoa, this is a lot of work. But we did that, right? We did that. And how do we keep doing that? And so now we're talking about trying to figure out what our recommendation to the city is about how to make sure that task forces like this continue. So that's also going to be in our paperwork, right? As we say, I know people have problems with how this task force was selected, and so how do we put in a process that says, okay, so people can feel more comfortable with it. But at the end of the day, it was the first process that I had been into where I had different cultures at the table, that we were truly BIPOC.
Yeah.
Truly BIPOC, and really sharing our stories and getting to know each other. I mean, just this last Friday, I went to Muslim Housing Services groundbreaking, and because Rizwan is my guy on there, so building those relationships, and and we always try to put community. We always put community first. It was like, how does this fit the community?
Yeah.
How does this fit community? And I'll give you an example of that. And I'll just do real talk, and they probably gonna get mad at me. Love you, Larry, from Anchor Group. But there was a point not too long ago where they was like, yo, we're gonna take $500,000 out to pay y'all stipends and to pay our consultants, and that's gonna come out of the $30 million. And do you know, we said no. That is not happening. $30 million goes to the community. you need to find this money somewhere else. And we was ready to walk away at that point. We was like, we had done all this work, but it meant that much that all this money goes to the community and not to us. Like, y'all didn't talk to us about that beforehand, so here we go. So we had to take some stands throughout this process and learn the city system as well, right? I'm an artist.
Yeah.
I know nothing about the city system other than what I learned through the Arts Commission. And so we was learning by doing, and that's how we do it, right? And that's why we talk about apprenticeships in the housing program as well.
You know, that's really a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that, because my last question really is about how so much of that confusion around the mayor handpicking Black folks from community and BIPOC folks, if you want to say Black, Indigenous, people of color folks. I always love to say the global majority. Y'all know I don't like BIPOC, so global majority, right?
But I don't like BIPOC either.
You know what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
when I think about how those people are selected, right? They asked me, and I was like, let me check with my people, and everybody's like, nah, and I was like, hey, nah, you know, right?
Right.
But ultimately, I think that that's really important. I really feel like so much of it is because the trust between the mayor's office and many folks in the community has not been there.
Right.
So how do you feel that this process may lend itself to kind of building that, maybe establishing some type of foundation for what that kind of trust and relationship can really look like?
Man, I hope it does. And that's why we spent, I'm glad Councilmember Juarez was on the committee with us as well. So she had representatives there with us every week. And so the thing that we talked about was, we're not the mayor's task force, we're the City of Seattle task force. And that means that we represent the mayor, city council, the community, and us, right? And so, and we're part of the community. And so it's all about coming together, and we hope and pray that everybody learns from this process, and that they learn that if we do it together, we can grow. And this is just a step. So like y'all said earlier, right, we need y'all to push, right? You see go to the website, seattle.gov, look up the Equitable Communities Initiative Task Force, see the breakdown, and know what departments that you have to go to say, yo, where's this at? How do I get more of this? Just push us, because we want to be held accountable, and we want to hold the city accountable. And that's what we're talking about now, because people like me, I'm not going anywhere. You know, I'm like, how do I stay in the process for as long as I can, even when we do the RFPs and things of that nature?
Yeah, that's important, Sharon.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
energy on the task force. Thanks for being connected and staying connected to community throughout all of this process, and making sure that we're engaged and informed, and that our audience is engaged and informed. So thank you so much again for joining us on the Morning Update Show
Thanks
today.
for having me.
Absolutely.